This conference will now be recorded.
On the agenda, we have the business is the 22-23 municipal budget. And I guess Mr. Shanahan will give us that presentation.
Well, how is everyone today?
Doing good. Very good.
Okay. We jump in. As directed by council, staff has put together a balanced budget with no millage increase. The budget contains a 3% cost of living increase for staff if approved by council. This budget will be reviewed in January and changes to it can be made based on the level of revenue. In addition, we have $110,000 set aside in our current budget to provide staff with a $1,500 bonus if the council wishes. But recently, we have seen last minute announcements from the county, from Conway, from Myrtle Beach in reference to raising salaries and benefits. And I've had several council members who asked about possible pay raises based on the current economic environment and how other local governments in the area handle these issues. So the following slides will address the cost of pay raises for the town and how we can pay for them. The goal of this exercise is to ensure that we maintain the employees needed to maintain the current quality of life despite increasing, despite the increased cost for everything we do.
Bill.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Better?
Yes.
Got it. Oh. When you look back at what other governments are doing, you can see the cost of doing business is going up. And if we want to maintain the current quality of life for our citizens, we have to both keep our current employees and be able to hire the most qualified individuals as needed in the future. The numbers above on the slide do not include the other government's policies on take-home vehicles, 100% employee health care, 2,500 yearly bonuses, and wellness clinic for both employees and their families. Our goal is to stay competitive with the employees, both government and non-government around us. We understand we cannot financially match the budget of these larger governments, but we still need to show our loyal employees that we are doing our best to both look after them and protect our town. In order to be competitive, we need to provide pay raises in an upcoming budget and a one-time bonus in the current budget. And we're going to talk about, if you all would like to do that, how we would do it. If we don't do something, all these local governments will be able to grab our employees. And we're not just talking about our police. The issue we have is that we are lean. Staff tries very hard to ensure that there is no fluff in the budget, as they've been directed by the administrator to do so over the last 2 years or 2 budget cycles. It is important. The important thing to remember here is the town of Surfside Beach does not sell water, electricity, or power. We sell service. Oh. Yeah. Okay. And this is not to say that we haven't done anything for our employees. As you can see, since 2016, we have presented our employees with 3% COLA. So what does that actually mean? In 2016, if you were making $30,000 a year, in 2021, you're making $35,821. In addition, in 2016, if you were making $50,000 a year, in 2021, your salary is now $59,701. So what are these numbers that we're talking about? Well, first of all, you have a mill, and a mill is valued at approximately $90,000. And then every 1% pay raise that you would do for our employees is approximately $45,000. And so just as an example, if you all decided, you know what, let's just up it all, give everybody 6%. Well, currently we have 3% already budgeted. And so that the 3% that's already in there is $135,000. So it would take another $135,000 and you would have a 6% pay raise. If that makes sense. So the next question would be, lots of stuff going on. What does a millage increase actually mean to our citizens? Because y'all need to know that to make a decision. And if you have, I'm gonna start with 4 mills and then I'll do 3 mills, and I'll do residents and I'll do non-residents. Now, if you have a house that has an assessed value of $250,000, you have an annual increase of $40 a year. And what does that mean per month? That's $3.33. If you have a house that has an assessed value of $350,000, that is an annual increase of $56, excuse me, and the per month increase is $4.67. And if you have a house that has an assessed value of $750,000, that means your annual increase is $120 a year, which would be $10 a month. Now, for our non-residents with the same values, excuse me, that $250,000 assessed value house, that would be $60 a year with a per month increase of $5. The house that's valued at $350,000 assessed value a year, assessed value, has an annual increase of $84. And the per month increase will be $7. A house valued at $750,000, assessed value, of course, the annual increase is $180 a year, which would be $15 a month.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
Is that per meal? Per meal?
That's total.
That's total?
That's total, yes, sir.
Total.
That's 3 mil.
3 mil.
That one was 4 mil. I'm
That
gonna
was
do 3
4
mil now.
Okay. 4 mil.
3 mil, yeah, 3 mils less. Okay. So let's talk about 3 mils, sir. If you have a house that has an assessed value, and I say assessed value because that's what we go by, of $250,000, the annual increase for a 3 mil increase would be $30 a year. And its per month increase would be $2.50. If you have a house that has an assessed value of $350,000, that's $42 per year, and this is for our residents, and the per month increase would be $3.50. And then finally, if you have that $750,000 assessed value house, the annual increase would be $90 a year, which is $7.50 a month. Now, if you're a non-resident, we'll do the same thing, just so any non-residents listening or here can see this. The assessed value of a $250,000 house per year is $45. And the per month would be $3.75. The house that has an assessed value of $350,000 is a $63 a year increase. And the per month increase is $5.25. And then if you have that $750,000 house assessed value, your annual increase is $135. And the monthly increase for that house would be $11.25. And that's total. So we've looked at a couple of alternatives. And one of the ones that we looked at is if you are a director or above, 6%. increase adjustment. Anybody to include civilian employees in public safety, these are administrative assistants, things like that. If you make between 30 to 45,000, that would be a 7%. And if you're making between 45,000 and a penny to 65, it's 6%. And then as you can see for our public safety folks, police and fire, you know, just all three of them would be based at a 10%. If we did it that way, everybody gets the same and there's no surprises and there's no morale issues or things like that. But to do that, we already have $120,000 budgeted. The adjustment to that would be 270, so that would up that total cost to $390,000. And then, of course, we've heard a little bit about just doing a straight 6% across the board for everybody, and then wait until August to see how our budget would be or how our funding would be. That would, the current cost of that, we've got 120 already budgeted. It would take another 120, which would be $240,000. So again, now the question is, how do we pay for it? Well, first of all, you have special revenue funds. You have local hospitality tax, you have local aid tax, and you have hospitality tax, and all of them can be used in this area for salaries. Secondly, you can cut staff services and benefits, and honestly, I would, in reference to that, just so you know, I don't mind taking a hit. I would not mind taking the deputy position that is funded but not filled and turn it into an administration position that could do special projects, so I have time to do other stuff, and that would save us a chunk of change if we did something like that. We can raise fees even more than we've already raised them, which we don't want to do, or we can raise the millage rate. Those are basically the issues that what you'll have to do. And then finally, just as a reminder, y'all have talked about this, and we do have the funding and revenue for a $1,500 bonus. And we are, if y'all would like to go that way, we can make that happen. And that is it. I mean, that's just showing you, if you wanted to do it, what it would take and the additional cost to the town.
Okay, I'm sure people have questions of the town administrator after that presentation, so.
And I, just so you know, I have brought staff with me because of the specific questions about specific departments. I'm going to use my experts.
Okay. Questions?
I have questions.
Go ahead.
Bill, you're proposing the $1,500 bonus comes out of the 2021-2022 budget again?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we just did that, what, last January?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you considered any other parameters in allocating percentage of increase, such as performance ratings, rankings, or penetration into the salary bands before doing a blanket, everybody at this salary gets this much money? Because say you've got somebody that makes $40,000 and a 6% increase puts them at, whatever. But if he's already at 98% of his salary band, that puts him over his salary band. Have you done any evaluation of where an employee would land within the penetration of their salary band?
No, ma'am. What we were expecting to do is if we raise give the pay raises and it's set like that, the salary bands would go up with it. And so they would stay where they were at, basically, in the band that would be the.
Well, but we adjust the salary bands with COLA every year.
Yeah.
I don't know that we would adjust, it would be appropriate to adjust salary bands it's like the merit increase program that we've talked about. that was requested back in October. That, you know, we have COLAs and everybody gets the COLA raises and everybody has their salary bands move with them, which basically also erodes their penetration into their band. But if we implement the merit increases, then it gives our higher performers a further penetration into their band. But if we're just, again, blanketly giving everybody the same raise, I don't think that's fair. We all know that we've got stellar performers, we've got good performers, and we've got some that aren't very good performers. It's a bell curve, no matter where you are.
Agreed.
Everybody has a bell curve.
Mhm.
So you've got really top performers, you've got that 1% that's down here, you've got the 1% that aren't such great performers either. But if we continue to rely only on blanket percentage increases and everybody gets the same, then there's no reason any of those good performers will stay here because they have no opportunity to excel. They will go seek their excellence elsewhere that values that. We need to, and this is a discussion we had back in October with the prior council, of implementing a merit program on top of the COLAs. And what we had asked back in March was that we do three things. We look at increasing the COLA to be more in line with the state, you know, whether that's 5, 6, or up to 8%. And we also look at instituting the merit program and setting aside whatever the right number there is, whether that's 1% of the salary, 2, 3%, whatever. That's a pool of money to be used for our top performers. It may not be used at all, but it's set aside in the budget to reward our best performers. With that, you look at what are we spending our money on? Where are there some low-hanging fruit? I hate to call it wasteful spending. Let's call it unnecessary spending. You know, in the corporation I worked in, and granted, it's much bigger than this town. Don't get me wrong, I understand. But a simple thing of evaluating office supplies saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there are other things we can do to lower our costs. We can reevaluate how we are using our A-tax and our hospitality tax revenue. You know, virtually our entire budget for our PIO and our events can be funded through hospitality tax monies.
Mhm.
So there's what, $300,000 right there that we could be setting aside and allocating to a higher COLA increase for our employees in a merit program. So I think there are better ways that we can accommodate rewarding our employees than raising our property taxes. And these things have been mentioned before. This is nothing new. I brought up these same things last year. I brought them up again, you know, as late as December and January and every month to now. And here we are still 8 months later, we still don't have a program. So I just don't, I'm not in favor of arbitrarily raising taxes for salary increases, because I know there are other ways we can accommodate those salary increases and more.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. That's why when we talked about funding, we talked about special revenue funds, which was local hospitality tax, local A tax, hospitality tax. We talked about looking at cutting staff benefits and services. We talked about fees. Each year, and you can check with my department heads, each year my department heads look at the supplies that they buy, and they look at to see that we're getting the best bang for the buck. And they will tell you that more than once I have made them take it back and redo it and drop it down. We looked at this as a salary increase for everybody because based on the questions that I have received, that's what I thought y'all wanted. In reference to the other stuff, we are looking, I know ICMA, I know the Municipal Association have no suggestions on the individual merit pay raises. However, I am now looking at trying to find some type of software that would do it. And because again, and something you have said, Councilwoman Keating, more than once, and you're right, you know, it has to be based on a personnel evaluation system that actually works. And our guys are doing the best they can with what they have, but what we have is not real good. And we're looking and see what other people have. We want to make sure position descriptions actually talk about what they're doing. We want to make sure that our evaluations, when they say, are you a good leader? Well, it's one thing for me, it's another thing for a department head, a police department head, a fire department head, and a public works department head. And so all of this stuff has to be put into place. But agree, we're not saying that's the only way of doing it. We identified several different ways.
But it's your recommendation as the town administrator that we move forward with the balanced budget and that we don't do anything right now for the millage?
My recommendation was, if we do that, that would be to do that and then to evaluate these things and come back as quickly as possible to say how to do it that best benefits the town, if you guys want to do it. Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shanahan, if we'd go to merit raises to each employee
Yes,
that
sir.
deserves it, what about these employees that are below that and don't get nothing? Our economy, as everybody knows, and I know, and you know, if we go out and buy a gallon of gas, it's $4 or $5 a gallon.
Yes, sir.
These people, it's at the lowest portion of their salary. What are they going to do? Are you expecting them to, you expecting them to live on that salary that you're giving the high performance people a raise, but you don't want to give nobody else a raise? So what is these people? How do you propose to keep these people in town working? As some of our police officers, some of our firemen, some people that works for John who are at $40,000 or $47,000 bring home pay. How do you expect to give the top performer a bonus or a raise and them people nothing? Do you think they're going to stay around this town for long to work just because they're the bottom of the barrel?
They
Bottom.
still get cold.
Yeah, well,
Miss Keating, I'm speaking right now. Thank you.
and in reference to that, let me see if I can sum that one up, sir. Number one, just because you're earning $35,000, $40,000 does not mean you can't be a top performer. It does not mean, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone.
Yeah.
That does not mean that my department heads don't look at the work that the lower pay. In fact, I would value to say that they probably look at them harder because they know that situation. And we've got some folks out there that are in ditches that I would put their work ethic against a lot of people that we have on the further up. They work their butts off and they work hard. And so can they get the merit and get more? Yes, sir. Yes, they can. Of course, you've got a point in the issue that 3% or 10% of $35,000 is not as much as 10% of $85,000.
Right.
I agree with that. And this is not to disrespect anybody. I just, when I started work, I was making 40 some odd $1,000 when I got out of the Air Force. And that was, I knew if I wanted to move up, I had to get more education. I had to do more things. I had to work overtime. I also knew my wife needed to work. And so, and I'm not saying that they don't do all these things, but, when I took the job earning $45,000 a year, guess what? That's what I got paid because that was the job. And it didn't matter that I had a master's degree. It mattered that was the job I took and that was the salary range that came with that job. And that's not trying to be harsh on anybody, sir. But again, merit pays can go to everybody else and all of those folks have received it. And I hope that answer, it's not supposed to disrespect anyone. We got some hard workers.
Has the town done anything to try to cut expenses to be able to find the money to do things that we're talking about doing? And I'll just give you an example. We no longer have a deputy administrator.
Yes, sir.
right? And what was the salary range for the deputy administrator that we were going to hire?
About $90,000.
All right, so there's 90,000. Then I take it there's still 2 police officers open. Okay, and they're approximately $40,000 apiece. And I'm not saying to eliminate the police officers. I'm just saying that if we freeze the position for, a little while until we find out what the economy is going to do, then that would help us. And I mean, just those 2 things is 160,000. And you said in order to do everything, it's 240. So I mean, we're over halfway there, and these are just 2 decisions that were made. I want it known that I'm not against raising the millage, but I'm only for raising the millage if it benefits the residents. And we have looked at all the other alternatives. And I think that some of the things that we need to do, we need to take a better look at. Now, if we're going to raise the millage rate, right? We
Yes, sir.
need to raise the millage rate in August. All right. And if we don't raise the millage rate in August, then we're not going to get the benefits of it when the tax bills go out.
Yeah.
And here again, I'm just saying that we need to evaluate what we have and where we're going and where we can save money and what we can do. And maybe some programs we can eliminate just, or cut down on and do it to try to get the money together to do it.
I have absolutely no problem with that because you're not saying no, you're saying, let's make sure it's the best for the town. And you're also saying that if you approve this budget, they still get the cost of living. And I'm not sure that $1,500 jumps in there anywhere. So I think that would be good. And I will tell you this much, as we're evaluating the different ways of doing things, if you want to have one of the council, one of your folks, that was proper English, be a part of that process with us, I welcome it because my department heads have worked their butts off making sure we have a lean budget. And so.
Any other comments from
Mr.
council?
Mayor.
Go ahead.
If we freeze the police officers, is that not just kicking it on down the road to later on to where we get that money now? But he's going to want them 2 police officers back. He's going to want his deputy administrator back. So is that not just kicking it on down the road a little bit?
Well, we're not freezing. I mean, we're not eliminating police positions. All we're doing is holding off on the hiring of them so that we can recoup and better adjust our finances.
Chief, last time you got somebody frozen on salary, did you ever get them back? Or are they still froze?
The police department gave up 2 sergeant positions in 2011. We gave up a detective position in 2018 that remains frozen at this time, and then also gave up 2 full-time transport officer positions in 2020. So we've been destaffing for quite some time, and it's.
So we just keep cutting
It's
into
enough.
your staff.
What's that?
We just keep cutting into your staff, holding out.
To my knowledge, the police department's the only one that has lost positions.
Yes, sir. That's sort of what I was getting at.
How many,
That's why.
Mr. Mayor, how many police officers do you have right now, not including the 2 that you said you got 2 openings that you have not filled?
There are 17 police officers that are on staff right now, and there's 2 vacant positions.
Okay.
So our organization is for 20, but 1 remains frozen at this time that we don't have. So 17 on staff right now.
Is that including yourself?
Yes.
But what I was asking, sir, do you know of any other department that has lost people like the police department has?
No, sir.
I am not, I want it clear that I am not, trying to hack the police department
I
and cut their
understand.
positions out. I'm trying to find money,
I understand.
and if we can find money anywhere, that's just an opinion. And if that doesn't work, that doesn't work.
No, I
We'll look
totally-
someplace else.
I totally understand.
Mr. Mayor, but we
Okay.
have to be balanced with this too, with the police department or the fire department or public works or any department. Just like Bill has an assistant administrator making $90,000 in a town of 1.9 miles long. And we have an administrator who is going to be the chief financial officer for the town or a county would make so much money. You stop and do the percentage of people that live here, I mean, he's paid pretty good for that position. What do we need an assistant in a 1.9 mile town? And then on the police department, you got 17 police officers, counting yourself, Kenny. Now we take Myrtle Beach. How many police officers does Myrtle Beach have?
They're adding 10 police officers per year, so they're probably getting close to 400.
Okay, about how many miles?
I don't know the
Okay.
I don't know the total
All
miles.
right.
of-
So, I mean, they got a lot different area.
Right.
So the chance of you getting hurt there versus here are two different things.
I disagree with you, sir. I
Well,
respectfully, I really disagree with that concept. Our officers are just as liable to be murdered in the line of duty
I
as any other
agree.
police
I agree
officer.
they could, but I'm just saying,
And-
we just have to look at cost.
I-
And everybody try to make it all balance out.
Well, I totally understand, and I've heard that saying as long as I've been here is, why do we have 19 officers in a 2 square mile town? And the answer is simple. How safe do you want to feel? How many police officers do you need in a 2 square mile town? As many as you can afford right now. And if everybody feels safe when they put their head on the pillow at night, then 19 is the right number. So, you can have as many or as few as you can afford is really what it comes down to. And I think you and I agree. And that's exactly what you're saying is how many can we afford? So right now, the staffing that we have provides you with the level of service, crime control, proactive policing and patrol that you have. And if you're satisfied with that,
Right.
then we should hold what we have and try not to lose them. And if, it's really, if you think we need more, we need more.
I just hate comparing Surfside Beach to Horry County, Myrtle Beach, Conway, and Georgetown.
Right.
It's hard to compare 1.9 mile town to them.
Right.
They're not even, it's comparing a watermelon to a grape. It's not the same.
And it's a great point, but also Horry County's adding 13 police officer positions this year.
I can
because
believe that.
They're trying to get to what we have, and we're so
But
blessed that
they
we
got
have
area
what we
to
have.
grow. They got homes growing, businesses growing. They got growth. And until we get the growth,
We do
I don't see how it's possible.
Right, I understand.
I hope that I didn't peg you out when I was making these recommendations. I am by no means anti-police department,
No.
but at the same time, I'm just trying to look for possible answers.
And Chief Clemens and I are a partner with y'all in that to make sure that we do evaluate everything. And we've gone back through the budget, and Mr. Shanahan's sat us down individually in meetings, and we've carved into the budget several times to pare it down. And so I didn't take it that way at all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I know what you're trying to do, and we want to partner with you on that.
All right, thank
We
you.
just don't want to lose anybody.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Damon.
And as you say, I didn't want to call just keep Kenny out of that, but I want the residents to know if we do have to do a tax increase or a millage increases, this is what it's going for. Are you happy with cutting your officers or cutting the fire department? Or are you happy with cutting John's department, John at Aaron's department? You as residents are the ones that's got to make that decision. It's up to us to make the millage rate decision, but you got to think what you're cutting into when you asked us to hold millage rate to where it's at, because somewhere that money's got to come from. And as all of us know, it don't grow on trees out back. It's going to affect me as much as it affects anybody in here. I'm going to have to pay. So that was what I was getting at, Kenny. I'm not trying to point your department out, but I do know that your department is the one that every time they ask for something, they want to cut the police department. I know that. That's why I wanted you to tell these people that. And I want them to quit wasting money too. If there are somewhere that we can gain, if he don't want to do it, if he don't need the assistant administrator, that's fine with me. Do away with it. We'll save $90,000 that we can pay these other people that needs the jobs.
Mr.
Right,
Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin, did you have something to say?
Yeah. Go ahead, let him.
I just wanted to reemphasize the fact that gas is $5, almost $6 a gallon for diesel, and about 64.40 for regular unleaded. If it keeps going, they're saying $6. Okay. And right now I live in the rental district. I'm down there. I'm walking the dog. I'm seeing people, visitors, and they're not here. I don't know how many of y'all think they're here, but on the weekends, yes, the parking lots are full. It's the weekenders, people coming from nearby, coming to the beach for the day. But the rental houses are not full. They're not rented. All you gotta do is ride by and look at them. They got a little sign that says this Surfside Rental, Dooms. Ride around and look. There's a few rented. There's a few, but they're not rented. So if our tax base comes from that, I think we're gonna see a big dip. And I'm telling you, we need to be prepared. We're prepared for COVID. We did good with COVID. We cut back. We saw it coming. We tightened the budget and we did good. We didn't lose any services. We kept our garbage. We kept the police going around and everything did just fine. We're being prepared. And I say we need to be prepared for this because it's coming.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. King.
Mr. Mayor, first thing I'd say is there's not a person up here that wants to raise taxes. We've all run campaigns based on maintaining our millage rate but the other thing we said, we wanted to maintain our services. And I worry if Kenny's willing to freeze 2 positions, what's that going to do to the 17? It's called burnout because he has to man this town 24/7. And you start dividing 17 people up by 4 shifts, it gets down real quick. A lot of people working overtime. So I'm not totally I'll go along with it, but I'm not in favor of it. I think it's just being penny wise and pound foolish. We need to fund our services. And actually, we should have had this conversation April 1st, not the end of May. We're under the gun. We have to pass a budget in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we're not there yet. But 3% is not going to do it. Now, I looked at doing a bonus now in June and a lower percentage COLA and look again in December for another bonus. It doesn't raise everything. It raises, it doesn't raise our insurance costs. It doesn't raise our, there's a couple other costs that doesn't go up because we give a bonus versus a percentage raise. And that percentage raise becomes our base. So I'm like to do something different than just across the board raises for everybody, even though a $1,500 bonus helps the lower end more than it does the upper end. And it puts money in their pocket now, as opposed to, you saw that $4 a month for, it just, the cost of living raise is spread out over 12 months of bonuses immediate. And I hope we will do at least one now and a lower cost of living, not 3%, but something reasonable for the next year. Thank you.
Paul?
Well, I'm the last person ever would be said to think about raising the millage rate because I've always been in my past against that. But I've never seen a year like we're having now. I've never seen where I've raised the question about the cost of living being at 3%. I was against that from the beginning. I brought that up and passed. But the cost for everybody is going outrageously high. And everybody's feeling it. We're all feeling it. And so we have to make some decisions. And I'm retired. I got a raise through my Social Security this year. But then that was thankful the government gave it out. But everybody got those raises this past year. And but the thing that happens is we have to make decisions because you can't hold the salaries where they are now and expect people to wait. And I agree that we need to do everything we can to hold money back and save money, but we have to make good decisions. And I really feel strongly about the public safety for both police and fire. They both services, and we have to do everything we can to help them. I rode with them. I heard the comments that were being made about the raises that are being offered about different places around the county, down to Georgetown and everywhere else. And they know it. And so we got to make, I want to keep these guys and they want to stay. But you start having such a big gap, you're forcing their arm behind their back and forcing it to where they have to say, I can't do it anymore. And we aren't talking about it much. You know, we're talking about roughly $40 or so a year for most of us. And that's not going to break anybody in the area. So, and I do know that anybody can afford it. They got it with their Social Security and they did other ways. So, thank you.
Laverne.
Oh, first of all, I'd like to say I probably didn't really ever say I wouldn't raise taxes because I know it could happen, but I just want to go on the record with that. Now, everyone is probably going to end up seeing a tax increase in 2024. I believe that's when our next reassessment is through the county. And with that being said, the county does reassess each time a property is sold or it is improved or new construction. It gets added to our tax base. And our tax base looks like it's going to go up almost $6 million in this coming year. That's an 8% increase. Now, since I've been here, it seems like we're always told we're in good financial shape. I know gases went up, everything has went up. And I'm not disagreeing with giving employees a raise. I think the 3% and ask them to wait until we get our peer done and see where we're at that point in time. And maybe we can always readjust, but once you give them a raise, it's forever. You don't go along and say, hey, let's cut your wages now. We lay people off, which we don't want to have to do that either. So with that being said, I guess I'm not in favor of raising the millage at this point, but I'm also not in favor with a big raise at this point. So that's what I have to say.
All right, now that you've heard what council has to say on this, it's time for public comments. So we'll accept public comments on this. Anybody that'd like to speak, please step forward.
Judy Henyon, 611 11th Avenue North. With regard to the increase in Social Security, if you also open the letter that you got from Medicare, you also saw that Medicare took away the increase in Social Security. So for those people who received an increase in their Social Security, they got a decrease in their payment because Medicare went up. So keep that in mind as well. I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for all the other older people in town who are living on fixed income. And when you say that $40 or whatever is not going to matter, you haven't walked in their shoes. You haven't shopped their grocery bill, and you haven't made their repairs, because everybody didn't retire with a comfortable retirement. And that's what needs to be kept in the forefront. Some of us, $40 isn't going to matter. That's the cost of going out for a meal. But there are plenty of people in this town that can't afford to go out for that one meal. Secondly, there are ways that this budget can be cut. With regard to the assistant administrator, take that position. With regard to using the hospitality tax, sure, if it's there, because Mr. Drake is right. The people aren't coming. They're not going to be coming because how can they afford to? Because the cost of gas is going up. The cost of air flights, if you check on the flights for people to come in and go, if you booked it a long time ago, you're gold. If you try to book it now, the cost has quadrupled. If you look at rental cars for people who do fly in here, look how much they've gone up. So if you look at the tourism industry and you look at the people who are going to be driving here, they're not coming because people aren't going to have the throwaway money. The cost of mortgages is going to go up. The Fed has already notified the people who serve that they're going to increase it every time they have an opportunity for the next 5 cycles. If the mortgage rates go up, where's going to be the refinancing? There is no refinancing now. Check with the people. Look at the people who are buying homes. Sooner or later, the people that have the cash to buy those homes aren't going to be coming here either. They're not going to be going anywhere. They're going to be staying put. When you look at the increase in taxes, it makes the whole area, it decreases the value for the whole area. Having bonuses is one thing, and continue to pay mediocrity. If you continue to increase the pay on a mediocre employee, you're going to continue to get the mediocrity. So based upon Miss Keating was exactly correct. You reward those people you want to keep. And if those people that don't want to work for the increase and they still want to stay, first of all, why do we have people who aren't performing still here? Don't we have a documentation system? But anyway, not saying we don't, but if we have people who are not performing up to their abilities, let's find people who will perform to the abilities. But if you look around, nobody can find anybody to work because nobody wants to work. And if you're paid to stay home, why should you? The problem we have here is once you keep giving out money, we have to live within our budget. I have a budget in my household that I try to abide by. This town should have a budget that it tries to abide by. Your budget is set by the tax dollars. The tax dollars, however, how can you even consider increasing it at a time when this entire country is looking at if not a depression, we are certainly looking at a downfall. So you might want to take that into consideration because there is not going to be this huge amount of money for you to disperse at the end of the year. And if you increase taxes on someone who is holding on to a second home by the skin of their teeth, if that increase in taxes may be the reason they say I'm getting out and they put that house on the market, or it gets foreclosed because they can't afford to keep it. You might want to think about a lot of different things before you increase taxes, because we all have to learn to tighten our belts.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Veronica Collins, 713 North Ocean Boulevard. I just actually want to validate Councilwoman Keating, like Judy just did minimally. As a small business owner for 27 years, this is what I know for a fact. You get what you reward. And if you reward mediocrity, just like Judy said, that's what you're going to get. I believe that's not just a minor thing. That's like 10 times more return on the bang for your buck. And anybody considering any kind of employment, business opportunity, whatever, that does not have a merit pay on the top discourages people from behaving their best. Like Judy said, if you get paid to stay home, why go to work? If you get paid to come to work and just do one of these all day, why excel? So that the basis of our country is that we are capitalists and we know to excel to get more. And when we don't, we're socialists. You know, see how well that's been working out around the world. So we really do need, I think, Administrator, we really need to look at merit pay. I'd give every dollar to merit. And that's just the way my experience has been in my life. Thank you.
John Gilchrist, 314 Melody Lane. First thing I want to do is I want to thank all of you for your service here. This town has really gotten so much better in the last few years and stuff. And this town is something to be very proud of, and I want to thank all of you for that. Moving on, we're heading into a recession. I'd say within 3 months, we'll be within a recession. Inflation's at 8.5% right now, probably going to 9.5. Gasoline's going to hit $6. You know, it's just the cost of living right now has gone through the roof. I feel that what we need to do right now is have Bill look at the budgets and stuff and see where we can find money, because I was listening to him and there is money out there. There's some things that can be done. And this, as far as Kenny, this town seems to be the safest town I've ever lived in. And I'm proud of that fact. Thank you, sir. And I think what we need to do is tighten our belts. I'm going to have to, you're going to have to, everybody's going to have to. And I also believe what they were saying about merit. You know, the people that are willing to, you know, I've busted my butt all my life to get ahead. You know, I didn't get it by standing still. I got it by moving all the time. So I feel like, you know, if you got somebody that wants to lean on a shovel all day and talk to his friend on the phone, they don't deserve a merit raise. Merit's for something you deserve, not just given to you arbitrarily. So with that, thank you all.
Tom Dodge, 8th Avenue South. I spent 35 years in law enforcement of one kind or another. I've lived in Surfside Beach for over 30 years. And when I first came here, we were called 2 Mile Town. We had a small police department, but the town was safe and well run. The police had what was needed and everybody felt safe. Today, the police budget is asking for an interceptor car and a lot of toys. In my opinion, Surfside Beach acts as a training facility for officers. They are here for a short time and then leave for a job in Conway or Georgetown or Myrtle Beach or somewhere else. I think this exodus of officers is due to low pay. If I were chief, my first thought would be to help keep my trained officers by paying them more. Why don't we put this budget year's money into our officers? Raise their pay to match our neighboring cities so we can keep them here in Surfside Beach. Thank you.
Beth Coleman, 10th Avenue North. Nobody in the room is going to like what I have to say. None of you and nobody there probably, because I'm right in the middle. I am not against a millage rate increase if it's for our police and our firefighters. I don't know how you could separate that. I think that our first responders are totally different than your other staff. That's just how I feel. And any other city, that's how they do it. Merit raises for police department, I don't even know that they do that anywhere. I guess it's just a thing down here. But most departments, there's a starting salary. You want to get better in your job and go up the scale, then you perform better. You study hard, you get promoted. And then when you get promoted, you get your pay increase. If you're a lazy do nothing, then you could be an officer for 25 years. And some people are very satisfied doing just that. Others become supervisors. So I'm a firm believer that you pay for what you get for, but I mean, you pay for what you get. And I'm involved in multiple police organizations in South Carolina. You have to pay them to keep them. Right now, we are a training field. We're spending a lot of money. I'd love to know the amount of money we're spending training our officers and I know Kenny had broken it down a few times, and then see your retention numbers. They're here for a few months, and you can't blame any of them for going elsewhere. They have to go elsewhere. And many of them have to have second jobs. As a police officer, you want them sharp all the time. So if they're doing 40 hours for Kenny and then they got to do 30 somewhere else, you're depleting that. And that's not a good thing in law enforcement. And I have to say, I won't say your name, but I know personally people that have died in smaller towns than this, police officers. Buried way too many, gone to way too many funerals. Bad things can happen anywhere. There are crazy people in this town, hello. You don't know, in a domestic dispute, they could get killed. They could get killed crossing 17, like all the crazy drivers we have. Anything can happen anywhere. People have to remember that if we go to, like, Horry County takes over our police department, because it seems to me like sometimes people are just so anti-police, let the county take over. Really? When I've called the police, and he knows I've called them many times, probably more than anybody else in this room. That's a fact. That is a fact, right, Kenny? 2-minute response time, 2 minutes. Now you go in the county, I've chased people into Garden City. He knows it. I've chased them to Garden City. The county, 45 minutes. 45 minutes to respond. You want that? No. And the fire department, come on, I'm not putting out a fire. They're there. They are there. When you say on the fixed income and the elderly, I get it. I get it. And guess what I did all last week? Talk to the elderly that came into the food bank. What's important to you? You live in Surfside. I've known you guys for 15 years. What's important to you in the town of Surfside Beach? And you know what they said? Safety. They said when they got older, they knew that they weren't as tough as they used to be. And they rely on the police. They rely on the fire department and the ambulance to be there for them. They come and get their food. And I'm not disputing that people are not on fixed incomes and that some of them can't afford to go out to eat. Not disputing that fact. It is a fact. But that's their concern. And if you talk to them, that's what they're going to say. So that's really important. The rental season starts in June, just so you know that. Rental season has not started yet. I used to rent my house for years. Your Easter week, you got bike week, you got the second bike week, you got senior week, then it kicks in June. That's true. And I think the office back there could tell you that's where the rent reviews come. Try to book a rental house in Surfside. Just go on all their websites, Dunes, Surfside, all of them. They're all booked for the summer. They're coming. People love Surfside. They're coming. I'm sorry, but it's true if you go and look, because I look all the time. They're booked. I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. Here's another thing about my office, and I hope this doesn't insult anybody that works for the town. But when you have police officers coming in for food, police officers that need Christmas gifts for their kids, no good, people. That's not good. It's heartbreaking is what it is. It's heartbreaking. And the same people that come in there for help, they'll be the first ones to call me up and say, what can I do? You know what? I have an extra ham. Well, you need it. Well, you know what? This family I just ran into on such and such a job, they need it more. Can you help me out with this? Now, come on, that's got to pull at everybody's heartstrings. It's crazy. All right. I do have a question, though. When you say you sat down and did your budget and made cuts, when I was up there, I tried to get answers. I couldn't. When we did the budget, it was very frustrating. I personally would like to see what was cut. And I know Kenny's really not going to like this one. I'm so against take-home cars, so against it. With gas so high, why are we doing that? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. If you really want to cut, there you go. You could drive to work like everybody else drives to work. And you come and you get in the car, it's already, the gas is expensive. And there's a lot of liability, in my opinion, to take home cars. So I'm just going to leave it there because I don't want to bore anybody else. But I think we need to know as residents, what big items are we going to take out besides the administrator's position? How about a toy or two that we could do away with? Maybe put it in the next budget. Take care of our staff, and please separate the police and fire. from everybody because it's a totally different animal. Thank you.
That's all right.
I want to be Larry McKean, 6th Avenue South. I've been here 8 years, started the council meeting 7.5 years ago. I think the very first time I ever spoke to council, it was about retaining police. I mean, 7.5 years ago. At that time, coming down from the north, the taxes here are incredibly low. You may not believe it, but I pay 10% of the tax I pay in New Jersey on my house down here. At that time, I said, we need to retain our police department and fire department people, and I'm willing to pay a lot of extra money for that. So if you want to raise taxes just to pay them, I'm more than happy to do it. However, people in town have seen spending in this town over the past 2 years skyrocket over what most residents believe is wasteful spending. This is where you're going to run into trouble, raising taxes even for a good cause, the police department and the fire department, most important one in my mind, because they've seen all this money spent on parking lots, on a new building across the street, on a lot so you can build another parking lot. God, lots and lots of expenses that to the normal resident seem like a waste of money. But anyways, pay for the policemen so we can keep them. Same with the fire department. I'm a happy guy to pay $100 a year more for them, more if necessary to keep our police force. Thanks.
Ron Ott, 7th Avenue North. What we see on the news every day is things getting worse, and we haven't seen the top at all. It's going to get a lot worse. There's going to be food shortages, and I don't know why this is happening, but it's being pushed to happen like this. When you get hungry people, you're going to have trouble because one person you don't want to fight with is a hungry man. They're going to take over. They're going to do what they need to do to get it done. I moved here over 20 years ago. And why did I move here? Because this little town had its own army. It had its own police force. What a great thing to have. It was actually amazing that existed here. And if your house is on fire, the best thing you'll ever see is those flashing lights coming down your street to help you, to do what you need to do. And if what's going to happen in the future here, you're going to be looking for people to protect you. We can't get away from that. It's just going to be so necessary. I don't know how you're going to do it. This is what a council does. You find the money. You get the money. But I don't want to see people coming up, walking up and down, or driving up and down that don't live here, looking at people's houses. You don't want that to start. And we're blessed to have people that would stand up for the people in this town. I'm getting too old to do it myself. That's why I'm here. That's why I came and lived in this town. I started at Little River and I went all the way down to Georgetown looking for houses when I first started looking. And I said, this is a little gem. It is. It's got everything you ever want in it. We need to protect ourselves. I don't want to sound crazy about that, but the future of what you're going to see in this world is going to change. And it's a sad thing, but you guys do the right thing. You get the money to keep them, keep us protected. That's what you have to do there now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Tim Courtney, South Poplar Drive. I've been here for many, many years, and I've sat where you guys sat. And the police and fire work weekends, holidays, night shifts. And I'm not saying how public works is, they work holidays too, and they do a great job. But law enforcement, there's so many incentives for these guys to leave here. Now, I've been in police headquarters where we have a closet full of uniforms because they do 2 years and they roll over to North Myrtle Beach because the glass ceiling's higher there. So by taking away their take-home cars, that's an incentive that they take the job at this low pay. And you also got to remember, yeah, we're a small town. We may not have the crime that they have in Myrtle Beach, but all it takes is one car stop. And we had one great car stop that one of his officers, Officer Pinto, made a good grab. And a lot of narcotics were stopped, fentanyl. We had other cases where we had, firearms, but when you're a police officer, you go to North Myrtle Beach, the glass ceiling's higher. You go to detectives, emergency services. I don't know what divisions they exactly have, but the glass ceiling is a lot higher. The take-home cars is a big incentive. They're taking a low cut pay here. Again, as Coleman and everybody else has said, they stay here for 2 years, they roll over. They go to North Myrtle Beach, they go to Horry County. I can just name officers, but I'm not gonna do that. Wouldn't be right, but they laugh because why? The glass ceiling is low here and the incentives to stay here is not here. So you want a seasoned veteran cop. We go through cops like water. I mean, for years, we've been watching the turnover rate for police officers, firefighters too. We had a ISO 1 rating. And it's because we've got a fire department right down the block from us. So these are things you got to think about. I believe that we need an assistant director, administrator? No, I don't. I think the town has been well managed for years that I've been here with one administrator. But I think you can find cuts in other areas, but do not cut the law of police because things are going to get a lot worse as inflation goes higher. The crime's going to go up, and you can't run a shift. You can't run guys, keep on running them with the low staff. And if you lose those two positions, they're never going to fill them. So the closet's going to get filled with more uniforms. So let's keep that in mind. See if you can make cuts elsewhere. Thank you.
Okay, if that's it for the public comment, there's nothing left unless,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a statement.
go ahead. We'll go into comments from council.
I'd like to thank all the staff that works for Surfside, the police department, the grounds department, even the department over in town hall. They all are great people. But y'all, they need more money to live just like everybody else does. I appreciate you, Kenny, all of you. I appreciate it. And as long as I'm on council, I'm going to try to look after them people. If it takes cutting the administrator, assistant administrator, I'm fine with that. That's a $90,000 that we can come up with. But I do also really appreciate all the people that's come out and spoke because it does gives me a different opinion on some things. I do like to hear from you, and I appreciate it so much. So thanks.
Paul?
Well, thank for everybody to speak up. And I agree. I never paid lower taxes than what I pay here. And that's a great thing. And because my taxes were 10 times higher when I lived up north also. And but I do want to make sure we keep our people and we do everything we can for the people we have. So thank you.
Ms. Keating.
I want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking up on this important subject. Anytime you're talking about establishing a budget when you've got severe inflation and unknown, it's very disheartening for everybody. I mean, as many of you have said, and we've said up here, we all have to tighten our belts. You know, the $1.67 a gallon gas is long gone. I mean, I just made a 13-hour trip both ways. I know what the difference in gas prices cost me to make my trek back up to Pennsylvania and Ohio. But at the same time, we want to reward our best performers. We want to reward our employees. We want to keep our employees, but that does not mean we can pay them what they get elsewhere. Certainly the county and North Myrtle Beach and Conway are able to pay more because they've got a broader base. But we can find money to reward our employees and pay them better. But we haven't done that exercise yet. Where are the places that we can cut spending? Where are the places that, you know, I think somebody had brought up maybe a few less toys, maybe. Excuse me, allergies are crazy up north. I'll just tell you that right now. But until we do the exercise of how can we fund our employees otherwise than just the status quo, and the status quo is we do what we always did, and now we expect a different result. Well, we need to put that critical eye on the budget. What are we spending our money on? We have more than just property taxes as sources of revenue. Our property taxes are actually about not even 10% of our revenue sources that run this town. So why do we automatically go to the point of saying to provide a 5% increase to our employees or a 10% to our policemen or whatever, we have to raise taxes? Well, when we haven't done our homework yet, we haven't identified what else can we allocate hospitality and accommodation taxes to other than what we normally do. As I said, there should be no reason that the most of our PIO budget, which is nothing but advertising and promotion of the town and communication, cannot be funded by hospitality taxes. That's $300,000 right there that we could have to allocate to salaries. So until we actually do the evaluation, where are the sources of money? The last place we look is property taxes. Thank you.
Well, I don't have a whole lot more to say, but I will say that I don't agree with Ms. Coleman on the letting officers take their vehicles home, simply because it is a perk that helps us at least get them. It may not help retain them, but, and she may be right, it maybe is a liability that we should look at. It could very well be, but other than that, I don't have a whole lot to add, except for I believe at this point in time, we should not raise the millage rate. We should just step back and look for other ways to save money and cut back on what we do spend. Thank you.
Mr. Kinkin.
I really want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking up. I'm like several other members have said, we like hearing what you have to say. I have a real problem with us spending money to train officers and then turn around and lose them. I think it's not money well spent. So I think we have to pay them more to retain the ones we have and make it more attractive for ones to come. In talking with the chief, he told me he tried to get some people to come from upstate. They couldn't find a place they could afford to live in, so they couldn't come. That's a real problem, folks. I know that we'd like to have a merit system and reward our highest people, but we don't have a merit system. We're working on it, but we don't have one. So that doesn't help us now. I mean, we're talking about a budget that we have to have done by the end of next month. It has to be balanced, and we've got a lot of work to do. Yeah, I think we need to reward our employees and keep them. I think several people have said that. It's my experience from when you had to hire a person to do a job, you might go through 5 hires before you find the person that wants to work and do the job. And that's a waste of time and money. So it's better to keep your employees and encourage them than it is to fire them and start over, because it does not work well. I'm mixed on pay raise, tax raise, millage rate, because I don't think we can continue to kick the can down the road. I don't think we're going to have a year this year like we've had the last 2 years as far as our hospitality and A-tax. I just don't think because of the gas and transportation costs, I don't think we'll have as many people. I hope I'm wrong, because we've had 2 really good years when Myrtle Beach did not, because people would rather be in individual houses than in a hotel or condo or whatever. I just don't forecast this being a good year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And if we can come up with money and don't have to raise the millage rate, I'm all for that, because I don't want to do that. But we can't suck our hospitality and A-tax dry so we don't have something to fall back on. That is our fallback position on a lot of things, is we pull money out of. Can we move the PIO out of general funds and put it on there? I think we can. And that might be a good move. Get rid of the assistant for a while is another good move. So there's things we can do we haven't done, and we should have done this in April. We shouldn't be doing this in the May. So anyway, again, thank you for coming. We've got a lot of work to do in a short period of time. Thank you.
Mr. Drake.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today and tuning in. Just keep in mind that, a lot of people move to South Carolina for a lot of reasons, but I think the number 1 reason is the weather. Number 2 is the economy and the cheap on taxes. And I've lived here my whole life. And that's one thing that every community, if you talk to real Southerners, they'll tell you, you got to know when to tighten your belt. And you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And I'm telling you, it's going to get rough. In this next 6 months, it's going to get rough. And I'm against any tax increase at all. I think we need to hold to where we are right now and wait and see how things come along with the A-tax and the tourist tax is coming in. And if it's all sunshine and lollipops, that's fine. But if it's not, then we need to be prepared to make cuts. And made the cuts during the COVID, and we may have to do it again. And I want Kenny to have the best that he can have. I want him to have the best qualified people. But maybe we going down the wrong road. Maybe we keep hiring and training. Maybe that's not the answer. Maybe we need to go and look at some people then that's moved here that are retired 25-year police officers. Maybe they want to get back into it. I don't know. I'm not in that business. But if you're hiring and training, maybe you need to step back and look at what we're doing. Maybe we're doing the wrong thing. Because I know there's probably a lot of 35, 45-year-old police officers, maybe 50 years old, that still got another 10 years they want to work or whatever. They may want to come to Surfside and make a little less and be a community police officer instead of a big city police officer. So we got our little 2 miles to worry about. We can't worry about what's going on in Georgetown, Horry County, and on up and down the coast in Myrtle Beach, especially not Myrtle Beach. We can't do it. So, have a good evening, and we'll see you next time.
I believe that we were presented back in May a balanced budget, one for the next year that included a 3% COLA, also included a $1,500 bonus for all employees. And we had the first reading of it, and then we come in and everybody, all the other jurisdictions does all this, and they're paying a lot of money. They're giving pay raises to everybody and everything else. I think that I'm not against that at all, but I think that we need to evaluate where we're going and how we're going to do it. my recommendation would be for us to go ahead and pass the budget as it stands right now with the 3% increase and the bonus that the employees will be able to use that. It's, very shortly. And then basically put together a work group, which would be with the town administrator, the directors, the director of finance, most importantly, and possibly 3 council members to have them sit down and work together and try to figure out where we're going to do the cuts and whatever. And I would be more apt as the mayor, who it's my job to protect the interest of all residents, to listen to the outcome of that committee to put together to make recommendations before we make a final decision. We can always go by and do an amendment to the budget. So if we pass the budget as it stands right now, that'd be okay. And I am not, like I said, I am not against the possibility of raising the millage. I'm not against the possibility of raising the police and fire salaries. I just want us to do our due diligence before we make that decision, because whatever decision we make is going to affect all the residents of this town. And good luck, and thank you very much for listening. And I need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.